The habits you have and the effect they have on your life make a tremendous difference. We're going to discuss it. It's the Think Your Reality podcast. Hang on, here we go.
Your destiny is by your design. Getting what you want in your professional life is gained by following a series of steps created by your mindset. Are you ready to start the journey? This is the Think Your Reality podcast. Here's Mike Sims.
Evaluating and replacing what is not working. My question, why do we buy a new appliance and yet we'll hold on to the old ways of doing things that don't give us the result we want? The road to success is always about a series of checks and balances. We invest in something of depreciating value and question those changes that would bring us what we want most in our lives. The sense of satisfaction and success in our chosen professions. Better the habit you know then. I've heard people say, well, Michael, it's the way it's always been done. Well, let me give you two examples of this being an outdated way of doing things. Your phone used to be corded and your TV cordless. Cell phones and cable TV altered that. People used to plug in their toasters. Now they plug in their car. Your plan for your goals has to be evaluated regularly, tested for its results, and changed accordingly. The way it's always been done could be the very reason you don't do it that way anymore. You see, tried and true has to be replaced with assess and adjust. If we don't bend, we break. The destination, remember, the destination does not change. The methods by which we get there may have to, and there's nothing wrong with that. Any reports I have researched say that anywhere from 21 to 60 days is necessary to form a new habit. Now, 60 days may seem like a period of time to do the same thing repetitively. But look at it this way. In the average lifespan, 60 days represents 0.002% of your life. So again, look at it a different way. If 60 days needs to be invested to get paid back a lifetime of being happier and more productive, it's a good investment, no? Needed improvements in what habits are not supporting or serving you. If you were to write them down or ask a trusted friend or relative to be very honest and assess what you're doing that may be a self-imposed obstacle, like say side by side on a legal pad, the habit and the result. Do they help or do they hinder? Do they benefit or do they block your progression? And then it comes down to decision time. Do you harbor the bad habit or get after the goal? It's as simple as that, really. Going after your goals, you just need to grind it out. Grind is a great word. It stands for getting realistic in necessary decisions, and we have to do that. The cost involved versus the benefit received. People who have successfully realized their dreams will tell you emphatically that the cost of going after that goal was infinitely worth more than the destination reached. It was worth it. It's simple as that. I'll liken it to a story. Back when I was a kid, my mom and dad had purchased a brand new 1970 Plymouth Duster. Now, here's what I find interesting. I can't remember to take out the garbage, but I remember a car my parents bought when I was 8 years old. And I remember very vividly, parked in the corner of the showroom was something called a Plymouth Superbird. Now, if you're a car guy, as I am, you'll know what that car is. I remember looking at that car. It had this big wing on the back of it and this cone nose, and it was basically a factory-built race car. And my dad, who was also a car guy, and that's probably where I got it from, I tugged on his shirt and I go, Dad, why don't we get that? He turned around, he looked at the car and he smiled, and he looked at me and he sighed. Here's the interesting thing, right? Cost involved versus benefit received. That 1970 Duster retailed for just over $2,000. That Superbird now could be worth anywhere from $250,000 to $500,000. Cost involved versus benefit received. Out with the old and in with the new. You've heard that mantra 1,000 times. Well, that can be said for clothing, appliances, spouses, cars, hips, knees, and more importantly, habits. Out with the old and in with the new. The bad habit that you have right now, and we all have them, at one point was a new habit. The habit that will ultimately serve you should be a good one and needs to replace the old one if any real positive, significant changes are to occur in your life. So my question, when do you plan on doing that? Developing the habits necessary starts right now. One way is simply to be cognizant of when you do that habit, right? You could even look at the list of the habits and the results. Be cognizant of when you do it. Recognize it and apply the critical decision point theory as we discussed in episode 6. You replace it with a new habit. Create the new one that is aligned with your life's goals and see what closer it brings you to your dreams. Take the time to enjoy the changes you made. Change is good, especially when it's getting you closer to where you're supposed to be. This step will reinforce the new beneficial habit and make it more effective in your life. It will cause exponential growth in that you will see its effect and seek out other habits that need to be eliminated and replaced. This happens and a substantial step is taken toward the manifestation of your dreams. And in fact, you create a very positive, vicious cycle that's now taking you further in your life and closer where you're supposed to be. I'll end with a quick story to illustrate the point. You may or may not have heard the story about the dog laying on the front porch and he's moaning. A passerby says to the dog's owner, "What's wrong with your dog?" And the pet owner says, "Well, he's laying on a nail." And the passerby says, "Well, why doesn't he just get up?" And the pet owner looks at him and says, "Because it's easier just to lay there and complain." If you need the changes, make the changes. If you need to break the habits, please, it's time. You need to break the habits that are keeping you from getting what you want. My name is Mike Sims. This is the Think Your Reality podcast. And as I always say to you, have a great day. You deserve nothing less.